Okay, let's take a few minutes to go over skills. This is your character's skills, and it's very, very important. Critical, in fact. Let's have a look here what we've got. So, when you select a skill, like here, Starship Attack Patterns, you'll notice that there's these little blocks underneath. They go up to 9 blocks. Now, the important thing here is to note what the skill does, and there's a reasonable description here. There's a lot more information online as to what each skill does, but this should suffice. The important thing to note is that for each point you spend skill points on, each block you spend skill points on, the first 3 give you the biggest bonus, plus 18. The next 3, the bonus per level drops to plus 10. And here we've got plus 5 for the last 3. So you should only really have the last 3 on stuff that you really want to max out. And in many cases 3 is fine, 6 is good, and 9 is overkill in many cases. So let's have a look at what they do. Obviously, Starship Attack Patterns increases all the damage that you're going to get from your attack patterns, such as Attack Pattern Alpha for your attack captains, Attack Pattern Beta for damage resistance debuff from your target, Attack Pattern Omega for damage resistance increase and offensive damage increase, and also turn rate and get out of holds. Attack Pattern Omega is a really nice one. All those attack patterns are boosted by this. The more you've got in here, the better. And they've made it a lieutenant skill, which means it's cheap as chips to fill up. It only costs 1,000 skill points for each block. Now, what you have to spend when you're at level 50 or above is 300,000. You can spend 300,000 skill points on the space stuff and 66,000 on the ground. Don't ask me why it's such arbitrary figures, but there they are. I'm only interested in space for these tutorials, so this particular character is maxed out on space. He's not maxed out on ground because they don't give us 400,000. Never have done. So, what would I build into a good all-round ship like this? Certainly attack patterns are maxed, and weapons training is going to improve your weapon damage. Driver coil, not necessary at all. There are a few cases where driver coil improves anything. Improves your speed through sector space, big deal, everybody transwarps everywhere now. The only other thing is if you're going in for absolute max DPS possible in something like the Infected Space Advanced, you might want to put your driver coil up a bit, because what it does is it reduces the amount that your weapon power and stuff is drained when you're in full impulse. So at the starting point of ISA, you want a full impulse over to the cube fast as you can to get your DPS counter up as much as possible. Driver coil will help your DPS, your power levels stop them dropping so low, but literally it's saving just 2 seconds or something like that. It's only for those that are really going for above 100,000 DPS, and not for most people. Everything else, unless you're crazy at touring the galaxy, mission, it's not worth bothering with. Batteries is quite a good one. I'm not particularly using it on this ship, but if you do use batteries, it will increase the duration by a significant amount. There are also duty officers you can put on that each time, for example, use a weapon battery and increase your damage by 10%, and you can stack 3 of those duty officers. So by using a weapon battery, you can get plus 30 to your damage if you're on if you max out this as well. Sorry, not if you max out this, but if you max out this, it increases the duration. So instead of 12 seconds, you can get it up to almost 30 seconds. Hull repair, yeah, a hull's not repaired very fast in combat. Like many games, when you're actually fighting, you get much repair. It does a bit, but not very much. So I would put it on 6, is about as most as you need in there. Flow capacitors are very handy for draining power. So if you're using something like plasmonic leech, then to get the most out of that expensive console, which is a console that per pulse, that means per beam that you fire, it draws weapon power off them. So it lowers their weapon power and increases all your power subsystems. The more you've got in flow capacitors, the better it's going to be. Shield emitters, obviously quite important to keep your shields strong. Repair and heal the shields, or your shield healing, like transfer shield strength, will be improved by this. Energy weapons, again, obviously, the more you got in there, the more damage you're going to do. Same with projectiles. And if you're using TS3 with neutronics, like I am, it's nice to have this right up there. Structural integrity, that's one of the reasons my hull's so high on this ship, because I've got it maxed out, that helps there. Subsystem repair. With some of the latest NPCs, like the Heralds, shutting down your systems with EMPs and stuff like that, this is quite nice to have. And I would say now that it's a good idea to put 6 into subsystem repair. Otherwise you're going to be disabled a lot longer than you want to be. So this is pretty good. Warp core efficiency, not really necessary unless you're using ships that have very low power in any of the subsystems. Can be quite useful on Romulan ships that always start off with -40 because they have to charge up the singularity. Not so important on this kind of ship. Power insulators will protect you against shield drain. To be honest, I used to use it a lot, but now since they've gone to super shield drain on the Borg spheres, I hardly think it's worth bothering with it all, because the Borg sphere will drain your shields no matter how big they are in seconds. They're so massively overpowered. So maybe for PvP, but other than that, it's not really that important. This increases your shield strength, so that's pretty important to get, you know, a few ranks in there. So 6 ranks in there, as they call it. What we're going to go. Maneuvers increases your defense, so the higher you got in there, the harder it is for other ships, NPCs, players to hit you. Get this high if you PvP and you want it maxed out, because if your defense is too low and their accuracy is high, their accuracy overflows into crit severity. So if they've got a higher accuracy than your defense, then they're going to hit you really hard with critical hits. So get that maxed out. Targeting systems obviously makes you more accurate. So these two work together. If somebody's got that maxed out and you've got this minned out, or minimum, they're going to kill you very fast. So I'd get that up and that up. EPS, definitely want at least 3 in here. Like I said earlier, it speeds up the power recharge rate. Not necessary to have it maxed out, because you can get EPS mods on a lot of the consoles, which will help instead. Impulse thrusters, that's how fast you're going to turn your ship, okay, at impulse speeds. Not warp speed, but impulse speed. So basically the higher that is, the better you're going to turn. So quite nice on a pilot ship or an escort to have that really high. You'll be zipping around like the Fox with a... That Fox, what was it? That Fox stuck with an Acme rocket? Roadrunner, that was it. What the Fox was it? Forget that, scrap that bit. Beep. So that's pretty important if you want to improve your turn rate. Warp core potential, you can never have enough power. Get it maxed. Obviously this ship doesn't need stealth. It doesn't even have a cloak, so wouldn't bother with that. Threat control. Now, if you max out threat control, you're going to get aggro from... You're going to pull aggro from the NPCs which in theory is great because you're a big, tough, tanky ship. And the escorts that are like glass cannons but hit harder than you do, they're going to be protected because you're pulling the aggro. But it doesn't work that way because Star Trek Online, I've never managed to get this working properly, and you're going to get the aggro no matter what you're in if you're hitting the hardest. So if you're a glass cannon escort and you're hitting much harder than this Galaxy, for example, you're going to pull the aggro. Whether I've got plus threat on this and plus threat on all my consoles, made a bloody difference, you know. So I wouldn't bother with it. What it does give you though, 9 in there is equivalent to another neutronium. So if you really want to stack up defense massively, that's a good one to go for. Engine performance, I like to keep all my power levels at 6. Especially if I'm not using Oxtobat. If I'm using Oxtobat, then I wouldn't even put anything in here at all, because you've always got a minimum amount of Ox power, and that's all that's needed to activate auxiliary power to emergency battery, which is a little bit more specialized build, which I'll show in another tutorial. But generally speaking, engine, shield, weapon and auxiliary, nice to have 6 in there, don't you think? Get a good spread of power, and power is what keeps you alive, is what keeps you doing damage. Auxiliary power improves your healing, allows you to use the new Kara passives, things like that. Engine performance, so it gives you more speed. Weapon performance, obviously, higher that is, the more you're going to get out of your weapons. Some of my higher DPS ships, obviously this is going to be maxed out. This ship, it's fine as it is. This lot here, science, not really necessary on this kind of build at all. If you're obviously a science ship, then you'll be whacking up part gens, you'll be whacking up graviton generators, sensors, stuff like that, using viral matrix. You'll be putting up subspace decompiler and so on. These are a bit more specialised, this group here, and not really required on a general kind of cruiser. So that's an overview of the skills system in the game.